place here in the corner behind the duty-free shop.
Okay.
I'm on a very important leg of my tour here. Hopefully it ends soon. I haven't been home in months. Haven't been back to my little village. I'm worried about Logan. Worried about Space Ghost the cat. Got a million personal problems. But I've just had some tasks to knock out. This last one was Herculean. And boy, am I tired after that. I've run the wheels off of my luggage. Look at this. These wheels are just completely torn up. I've worked my wagon till the wheels don't work. Look at that, it's all sideways. The bearings are out of it. That was new when I took off. Like the Gibeonites. Just like the Gibeonites said, hey, I got a really important message for you today, and there's one more important task for me to do. I gotta go to the CPAC. So this is the Conservative Political Action Conference, Conservative Political Action Conference. And it's in Mexico City. And just to illustrate how serious this is and why it's important that I'm there, the president of Argentina, who is openly ultra-derechista, he doesn't deny being a hard-right leader. The president of Mexico was asked in his mañanera, his morning conference, "You going to allow this guy into the country? Our government is from the left." It's not exactly leftist, far from it. It's a very fair and just government. It's moving forward, the whole nation. But they asked, hey, are you going to even allow this guy to come to the country? And he said, absolutely. He's going to come, and no one will stop him. No one will estorbar, will stand in his way of coming to Mexico. This is a free country. It's kind of amazing that the president of Mexico would say that. It's amazing that he was asked that. So this is a real opportunity to build bridges between the left and right. That paradigm is so old, it's so worn out. It is non-functional. In our freedom movement, in our Trump movement that comes from the right, in the Make America Great and Make Every Nation Great movement, the Make El Salvador Great movement, in all of this, there's an infiltration of Catholicism. There's an infiltration which has been behind all the leftist governments of the world, all the cruel dictatorships. Now some leftist governments finally fight with the Catholic Church. The Lord can raise up trouble against them from within their own children. And that's where secularism comes from, and Voltaire, historically, going back and into other centuries. But general tyrannies come, leftist governments come from Catholicism. That's where they come from. It's where they go to. So it's really time to bury the hatchet. I invited some Morena politicians to come to the CPAC, which I'm sure they'll be stunned. And I said, hey, we need to bury the hatchet. We need to fall back on the friendship that was built between AMLO, the current president of Mexico, and Donald John Trump. Because AMLO comes from the left, he's not really a leftist. Trump comes from the right, he's not a Bush neoliberal Republican warmonger. He's not. First president we've had, maybe in my lifetime, that didn't start any wars. So this CPAC conference is very, very important. And I'm going to go there wearing the colors of the Morena, the Movement of National Regeneration here in Mexico. I'm going to do that. And make the argument that we need to bury the hatchet with the right. We need to bury the hatchet with the conservative nations of the world. And that the counsel of God has to be put forth. One thing that Andres Manuel has in common with the hardest right politician in all of Central America, let's just say, Nayib Bukele, is they're both very serious about their Christian faith and about the book. And you've got these other situations going on where people are not serious about Protestant Christianity and the Bible. They want to wear the badge. they want to be part of a movement, but this is what Catholicism has always done. So I have a very important verse to share, and then believe God with me, because every step of this trip, the gas tank is empty. I stand in airports without a ticket. I've been in the airport all day today. Fortunately, I walked in with a ticket today. This may be the first time I've walked in an airport. No, well, I walked in with a ticket once, and then they said it was canceled. So this is one of the first times on my whole trip that I've actually walked in the airport with the ticket to fly to the next station. But when I get there, there's a lot of problems awaiting me. So believe God with me. And listen, if you can hit the PayPal button on GospelGunslingers.com or Zelle me $1, I badly need it. This day, today, not tomorrow, don't yet. No checks in the mail, all right? We need it now to get to the next step. And this CPAC conference is a week from today. So it's 6.5 days from this broadcast. I'm going to be there with all the heavy hitters and the big wigs. I don't have a ticket to that. They're $350. I asked for a press pass. We'll see if they give me one or not. You know that those of us in the conservative media, no matter how widely publicized we are, my radio show goes to more nations than almost anybody that's going to be there. Nevertheless, I may get some static about my press entry. So I'd like to have a ticket, including to the VIP ball. And I have nothing to wear. I'll probably not wear a suit coat. I'll probably wear my hat and a guayabera. That'll be very Latin. We'll see. I feel like this jacket has got the wheels worn off, just like the bottom of my luggage. I want to share this very interesting passage, because this is why I have to go, to bring the counsel of God to these events. I'm going to tell you about an event. Listen, not like I'm the only person, but the Lord told me this was one of the last times I came to the United States, and the Lord said, if you don't go to this conference, my counsel will not be there. And it was supposed to be for the Black Robe Regiment. It was supposed to be all preachers. How do you have a conference? It's all preachers, and nobody can hear the counsel of God? Well, it's what the Lord said, and sure enough, it proved to be true. So I want to read you this. This is about a terrible siege that came on Jerusalem years ago. And the chapter opens, it's Isaiah 22, with the burden of the valley of vision. So it's really interesting that the Lord calls this place the valley of vision. And then that same term is again, for it is a day of trouble and of treading down and of perplexity of the Lord God of hosts in the valley of vision, breaking down the walls and of crying in the mountains. So some serious trouble was getting raised up to come on this place. And what form did it take? Well, chariots and horsemen. It was a military siege. Here's what I really want to draw your attention to. It was so bad that they broke down the houses to fortify the wall. And they had 2 sets of wall. And then they built a moat in between them. So imagine the labor to break down the houses, to fortify the double walls, and then in between the walls to build a moat and fill it with water. Okay, this is what we see. Just going to read it to you. Verse 9, ye have seen also the breaches of the city of David, that they are many, and ye gathered together the waters of the lower pool, and ye have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses have ye broken down to fortify the wall. Ye made also a ditch between the 2 walls for the water of the old pool. But, and this is what we're getting to, is the but. They made all those preparations to defend the city, but they lacked something. But ye have not looked unto the maker thereof. But ye have not looked unto the maker thereof, neither had respect unto him that fashioned it long ago. And in that day did the Lord God of hosts call to weeping, and to mourning, and to baldness, and to girding with sackcloth. And behold, joy and gladness, slaying oxen. This reminds me, and I was telling somebody today about the conversation that I had with a lot of the Proud Boys before they all got in serious, serious trouble. And I was always pulling them towards being more serious about the faith. But they wanted a party. It was all a big drinking game to them. And I wish they would have taken things more seriously. Maybe they're getting some serious Bible reading in the DC Gulag. And again, I'm not poking fun at them. I'm really sad about it. These people are my friends. This is part of the reason that I don't cross the border, because my friends, so many of them are in jail. But they did not ever come into seriousness in the study of the scriptures. They did not ever come into seriousness in the in fasting and calling out to God to help our nation. It was all physical activity. Oh, we're going to have a protest. We're going to have an outreach. We're going to fight in the streets. All right, great. But after you look to the Maker, after you look to your Maker, you don't do all those natural things first. And they didn't even consult God in this exercise. They just put these huge construction projects together, and the Lord said it wasn't going to work because the enemies that had come across against the city were ordained by God to bring a purifying. So I got a call from my friend Ohio Brett Ball today, and I met him at that event that the Lord said, my counsel will not be there if you don't go. So I went there and I made a lot of friends. Later, I had to break with some of them because they have a gerrymandering way about it, because they hate the Lord's holy people. They hate the Jews. They hate Israel. They won't stand with them in their wars. They don't see that this nation is the fountainhead and the wellhead of our own freedom movement, and our exercise in self-government was because our forefathers read about the history of Israel and had contact with some of these people in their diaspora. Later, they were set in their own land and fulfilling the prophecy. But I got to tell you, there's a problem when people don't support that. Oh, 2 people just turned off the show. Maybe there's some Jew haters that still follow the Gospel Gunslingers. As many people as I've disfellowshipped, and as many people as I've scolded, and as many times as I've taught them to open their own Bible and read Romans 11 and read about the promises, our forefathers believed in those promises before they ever resettled the land. Well, it's done now. They're there, and we got all these people that are so ignorant of the Bible that they won't even support it. You don't have to read 1/10 of the Bible before you see yourself. We're the armies of Israel. We're the Lord's holy people. We're like Israel here. To the point where there's this nation that's called El Salvador. It's about. I got their flag right. I got their flag right here on my pack. Yeah. People call themselves by the name of the Holy and the Blessed Land. And if you go to El Salvador today, you know what the graffiti is? Not free abortion now. No. Not anarchy symbols. No. Not female, male symbols like the entertainer formerly known as Prince started drawing. No. It says Israel Tierra Bendita. Those are the things that are painted on walls. And some of it is beautiful artwork, and not just made to be ugly and to detract from the appearance of the city. So I called Ohio Brett and said, hey, maybe you should come to CPAC. I left him a message and called me back. This is a guy who's out running the circuit. He said, yeah, I'm on my way to make all 50 states. I've done all 50 states 3 years in a row. So he's out there, being a YouTube sensation and an influencer and a Trump campaign groupie, and going to all these events, yet he hasn't consulted the Maker. He told me he wasn't going to come. It's better that way, since he did not distance himself from his mentor as I advised. I disfellowshipped Coach Dave for Jew hating. It's right here on this channel. Look it up, disfellowshipping Coach Dave Daubenmeyer. It's got a lot of views. Coach Dave would not get off of this. He would not stop. And what does that mean? We're not in the same army. As Captain Willard said, I wasn't even in their army. So as I go to CPAC, it's very important that the Council of God is there also. I don't know if any other person is going to represent the Morena party. I don't know if any Morena politicians are going to come. You know why a lot of people hate Claudia Sheinbaum? Because she's got a Jewish name. She doesn't even really practice. But that is her root. She grew up in going to Shabbat. She grew up hearing the law and the prophets. Aside from her very extensive and technical education in other areas, in energy, clean energy, nuclear energy. She's a nuclear engineer. She has degrees from multiple universities. She's a tremendous, wise person. She ruled Mexico City. She was the head of government for Mexico City, the greatest city in the world. It did okay. The subway lines there are nice. The police have been reformed. The anarchists still come out to cause chaos. And she won't put up with it, even if they're female. Even if they're female. Because you know they're going to come out and play the victim card with their purple hair and throw dynamite at the palace. They do that. She hasn't put up with it. So, yeah, I may be the only one there that's talking to these other presidents. That's there with Jose Raul Molina will probably be there. Abinader, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, the new president of Dominican Republic, he actually just entered into a new term in these days. Javier Milei. These people need to know that they can make an alliance with the great Republic of Mexico. Far and away, the largest and the strongest nation in Hispano-America. You know, they've got a whole new fleet of Navy ships that will probably carry light frigates that will likely carry the Naval Strike Missile, that carry the Raytheon 57mm autocannon with guided projectiles. It's got a lot of U.S. technology on it. And this is the new patrol ship that's going into service. The class is being built and it's going into service. It's going to make a phenomenal difference in the security scene in the Americas and the Gulf and Pacific coasts. So it's very important that these smaller nations come in and find that they can make peace with the government of Mexico, even though it technically comes from the left. They're putting into practice policies that were done in the United States with the Civilian Conservation Corps and with the settling of Oklahoma and the surveying of Iowa and the mile-long roads. The way that we developed and built our own nation, including giving people land who will go in and work it, or paying people to go in and work land that's undeveloped. This is how nations develop. It's how we developed our own nation. This is Sembrando Vida. This is the president's campaign promise and program, and it's happening. The tourism of these nations are being reformed. The same thing that's going on in El Salvador with the kicking out of the drug dealers out of the hotel industry. 2 girls from Oklahoma just got roofied, and fortunately their boyfriends were with them in Cancun and saw them slumped over before they were whisked away. They were going to be abducted. And yeah, they talk about organ trafficking. No, 20-year-old blondes, the organs are later. They want them alive. That is being uprooted in Mexico. And when the new government comes in, it's going to be uprooted a lot in Mexico. These nations really need to stick together. So aside from gaining support for Trump, it's very important that these nations find peace with Mexico and with Trump's good friend, Andres Manuel, the president of Mexico, and his successor, Doctora Claudia. But they hate her because she's a Jew. So many people hate her because she's a Jew. I saw graffiti in Mexico City, Judea Opresora. I had never even thought about that until someone had that deeply, deeply held prejudice and painted it on the wall, and I was like, oh, Scheinbaum, right, it's a Jewish name. Javier Milei practices Judaism. He is a proselyte to Judaism. He's very serious about it. He wears his kippah on Shabbat. So he's coming. We'll see what he has to say. You know, I have to admit, along with the audience that I'm teaching, I have to admit that I didn't believe when he first came in, when his campaign was taken off and he was this firestorm and he was this iconoclast. I didn't believe until he took office, put on that kippah, declared openly that he believes in the law and the prophets, and until I found out that the only reason he got in, that there wasn't total fraud in that election like there was 4 years before, the only reason that didn't happen is because 90% of the military and police were with him. 90%. They were afraid that their nation was being sold out to China. And what's a line soldier to do? when his whole nation is being sold out by a Benedict Arnold? What's a cop on the street to do? They have to have the backing of the highest office in the land, which is why when Trump got in, pedophile arrests went up 500% and stayed at that level during his entire presidency, 500 to 600% of what it was when he took office in 2016. So it's very important that I go to this conference, make it. I'll meet some journalists, maybe meet Tucker Carlson again, and hopefully share some of my work and my body of research with people that have a wider audience and greater reach, and maybe make some friends. But that's going to be the last stop. It's the next step before me. I have to make it another week in the high rent district, which is very difficult for me to do because I live in a little village. I live on the cheap. That's how I've survived all these years, is because I'm a missionary first. And later I got into political commentary and news reporting and things like that. But it's only by being way back in the jungles with the people that I've been able to sustain my presence free outside of the United States for these 3.5 years. So anyhow, thank you for standing with me. Pray for me, pray for the Gospel Gunslingers as I go on to my next station and try to get a few bills paid this very day that I don't have money for, but praise the Lord, I got my plane ticket. All right, hey, look to your maker before you bust down the houses to buttress the wall and dig a moat, and they probably had to carry the water up from the lower pool. They did all that work. Why couldn't they just bow the knee a little bit first and say, Lord, what's it going to take to win this battle? Ohio Brett and all his friends made that very error, even though the Council of God was present. I called them all out, the whole Black Robe Regiment. I said, how is it that you can teach people to be free politically when you demand that they be under your thumb because you believe that you have the right to rule them, a divine right of kings, as a member of the clergy class? No answer. Crickets. See, that's Catholicism. We have to fight that first. If we don't beat that, what is the point in buttressing the wall and fighting the invading armies? We've already been defeated from within. This is where the term fifth column comes from. Franco's Catholic armies. He said, I will assault Madrid with my 4 columns, and a 5th column will attack from within. That was the embedded element of Catholicism. God bless you all.